Yeah, I got all of them. No, because I don't know how much their license fee gonna be. No, I go through outreach, and then I go through Paris, and they're reasonable price. Even like they got parking for the kids, so I'm gonna after this season going into next year, I'm gonna do one for kiddos, just strictly. Well,
that would be nice though.
Yeah.
If you found out how much that was, that would be something because everybody's not gonna make it.
Yeah, and I already got the move, so all they need to do is give me a license. So I don't know, I'll check into it and see. But they're very particular. They do have strings about it. So I don't know, some of them use their strings, but it'd be one time for what I get for a whole year. Like some of my movies I can show them as many times as I want for a year. Right. But then that's
It is 5:30. And so we will begin with our agenda item, public comments. The first person on the agenda to speak is Mr. Danny Walker. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, people, persons, should I say.
Thank you.
As far as this waste management issue, my concern is, one of the biggest things I have is I understand that the city went through a consulting firm when they came up with this pecking order that put cards at the top and so forth. But I have talked with several people who have concerns about whether the consultant firm was operating in good faith. Now, I understand that we have had last year problems with waste management, but to jump up and to just discard them and get a whole different company that we know nothing about is a whole different issue. And then that's one thing. The second thing is we have a lot of citizens in Pine Bluff and Jefferson County that work for waste management. And as long as those employees are taken care of, I don't really care who you get. As long as the employees, the taxpayers of Jefferson County, are involved in the process. So with that being said, you all are privy to more information than I am. As far as the contract layout, it's supposed to be short-term for 5 years. So, I mean, if nothing else, we can give them a shot. We can always go back, but you can't, you can go forward, but you can always go back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the next person on the list is Ms. Carla Britton.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Carla Britton. I serve as the Senior Operations Specialist with Waste Management here in Pine Bluff. I want to begin by thanking you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening, and more importantly, for allowing Waste Management the privilege of serving the City of Pine Bluff. Should you choose to move forward with WM as your service provider, I will be responsible for managing all customer service operations for the City of Pine Bluff. I understand that this work is both complex and critical, and I am fully committed to delivering reliable and high-quality service to the residents and leaderships of Pine Bluff. Thank you for your time and continued trust.
Thank you so much, Ms. Britton. And now we will call the meeting to order, and Clerk Roberts will deliver the invocation, and I'll lead the pledge.
Let us all stand and govern ourselves, please. Most gracious and divine Father, we come before you to bring you thanksgiving. We also ask that as we discuss this special call meeting, the agenda item that's granted with wisdom, unity, and spirit of love. May our actions reflect your heart, dear Lord God, and build up this community. We ask all of these things in the mighty Son, Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir. Hey, where's that? Oh, it's out there. It was out on the stage for the 9/11.
Well, we can still pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Mays.
Here.
Councilmember Holcomb.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Lockett.
Here.
Councilmember Frazier.
here.
Councilmember Brunson.
Here.
Councilmember Denton.
Here.
Councilmember Fells is on Zoom.
Oh, okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. And we will move into the business of the proposed ordinance for this special meeting. Councilmember Holcomb.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Cars Holding LLC regarding waste management and for related services.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Cars Holdings LLC regarding waste management and related services.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that proposed ordinance number 1 be adopted. Any discussion? Okay.
Yes.
Councilmember Mays.
Well, first of all, good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. I want to just point out something right quick. This is a proposed resolution. On the paper, you got a proposed ordinance. So which one is it?
I'm sure that it's a resolution, if you look on the resolution, and I'm sure that's a typo from the clerk's office in drafting the agenda, but it's a typo.
I say pull it because of the typo.
We don't pull resolutions because of typos on the agenda. The actual agenda is in your packet, and it says resolution.
But it's misleading. You got, on the paperwork, you got ordinance.
On the, right under there, it says resolution authoring the mayor to execute a contract, et cetera, and we just heard that from the city attorney, so we're going to move forward. Any further discussion, Councilmember Mays?
No.
Councilmember Frazier?
First and foremost, I want to say thank you, Mayor, for having a meeting with me, and thank you, Cards, for having a meeting with me the other day. I did have some concerns and some questions that I want to answer and my constituents want to answer. And when I was in there, they did answer every question that I asked. However, as I stated to them in that meeting, that I still have to listen to my constituents, but also I still have some concerns. See, I went in there listening more so than talking, and y'all know that I can talk, but I sat there mostly to listen. And there are some things that concern me. First of all, let me say this. One thing that concerns me is why even go through the RFP process in the first place if we thought that Vernon Jamie Vernon was doing a better job with waste management when he came on board. Second, even though it went through the process, I have some concerns after the meeting, because I'm like, I was told that waste management didn't complete the RFP the way it was supposed to be completed, but in truth, based on going back to what I was looking at, they did answer the question, and in it, it was like, in the meeting that we were in, it was said they had tab 8 and tab 11, but then when I go back into this RFP and stuff, it actually tell them to use, let me just read it, because I don't want to say the wrong thing. And I want everybody to let me finish everything I'm saying before anybody comments on it, so I can get everything out, and we can go from there. It says, the description of the alternative service should be provided with the proposal submission using proposal tab 11. Pricing for alternatives shall follow the same protocol outlined in proposal tab 8. So then, in the actual tab 11, I'm trying to get back on my thing here. Even on tab 11, it says proposal for alternates. If proposer wishes to provide alternates, the alternates will only be considered if proposer has responded to the base proposal. Alternate proposals should be submitted with a revised tab 8 for each proposal. So waste management did do that. They had the tab 8, and then they copied the tab, the section 8, and put it into section 11 with 2 different pricings. My thing with this part is, if you didn't want no alternatives in the RFP, you shouldn't have did it. If you had some absolutes that this is what needs to be fulfilled in the contract, don't give them no alternative options, and then don't criticize them for taking that opportunity to provide alternatives. So it's almost like they got penalized because they responded and had some alternatives to the contract, but clearly they were within their right to do that because it's here stating that they could. Another thing that was brought to attention in the meeting was that Waste Management wanted a separate bill. In that meeting, it made it seem like they wanted their bill to be separate. They wanted it to be separate from Liberty Utility on purpose. And of course, our citizens don't want it. I don't want it. I want one bill. Give me one bill so I can pay my bill and be done and know everything is covered. But when I went back, Waste Management offered a separate billing as an option for the city in their exceptions, because Liberty Utility had previously had issues with billing for trash services. So they were extending to the city an option to the problem. Not that saying that they had to have that done. Another concern of mine is, with all that said and done, if Waste Management was not complicit in fulfilling the RFP, they shouldn't have even been considered. I don't care if we had them for 30-something years, 40-something years, they shouldn't have been in the running. And then if we go to the second one, GFL, I asked about that. Well, they didn't want to come to our city. They didn't want to come to our city. I'm like, that should be, anybody that don't want to set up shop in our city and we're doing a big contract for them, that should be a #1 mandatory requirement. Like, you are not going to get this proposal if you don't even want to set shop up in my city. So all of these concerns, and then with the other concerns, yes, they answered my questions about the AG, because just as much as I was vocal then, I'm going to be vocal now to tell what was said. They answered my question in reference to AG. They said that was an informal investigation, and they spent, I think 4 months, Ms. Vicky? 4 months with them, and then after the 4 months, AG decided not to go no further, right? And then when I asked about the question about acquisition, because that's a concern for me, I'm still not feeling good about the answer. I mean, I got an answer, and to me, it's a legit answer. You know, that if, now as far as they know, I was speaking to Ms. Vicky, that's what she said, as far as I know, there is no acquisition going on. But as far as I know, only means that as far as she knows, it could be something that's going on behind doors that she don't even know about. Now, she did say that her company was, well, I don't want to go too far with that because that's neither here nor there. But anyway, I still have some concerns with that because there still is a possibility of that happening. You know, and now they did say that we could, if that was to happen, acquisition was supposed to happen, then they are supposed to come to the municipalities that they are over and tell them about it, right? And then then they go from there. So my thing is still, even though they come to us, how much power do we have? And is it in the contract? I didn't, unless I missed it, I don't see it in the contract. But I could have missed it because I'm human, okay? So I had those concerns. Let me look because I'm making sure I'm going down my list here. And again, one of the things that I said to the mayor, it was a good meeting, y'all. I don't want y'all to think that it wasn't a good meeting. It was a good meeting and my questions were being answered, okay? But just because questions are answered doesn't mean that you still don't have some more after you sit and chew on it, right? And so one of the things that I said in that meeting was that if we would have been privy to a lot of this before September 2nd, before we get ready to go into a meeting, that would have been great. Now, and I was told that an RFP was sent to us before that time. I went back to my email, I didn't see it. I asked William, he didn't see it before we got it that September 2nd or 3rd or whatever time we got it. So I think a lot of complications that we have with our city is about communication, is about the whole, getting all the information, whether we like it or not. Okay, because I came out of that meeting and I could tell you, I called Vernon and I was like, I'm upset with y'all. I tell you, I don't hold no bars with nobody. I was like, why didn't you fill this out? And so then I got some clarity on those things. And so I'm just a little bit concerned. I did tell the mayor I would go back to the same ones that's been calling me, because when I tell you I've been getting a lot of calls and a lot of text messages in reference to not changing, okay? I called the constituents that called me that had concerns. I shared everything that I'm sharing with you now, that they were transparent and giving me the answers to my questions and stuff, and guess what? They don't want them. So I just wanted to say that I'm thankful to have had the meeting with them, and I'm thankful for them answering my questions, but they are still on my behalf, even without my constituents saying what they're saying. But on one hand, we can't say that we need to listen to our constituents, and then on the other hand, say that we shouldn't. And so even without listening to them, me personally, I still have little concerns. And I really like Miss Vicky. So I just want to end with that and say, I just wanted to come here, and just as I voiced before, I wanted to let you all know that they did answer my questions, and I did share with those that was concerned that called my phone. Not one person. Now, if there are some people out there that wanted me to change, they didn't voice it. So that's all I have, ma'am. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. And I do want to thank you for your willingness to attend our meeting with the CARDS officials. And we did that for anyone who was not here or watching our last meeting. Mr. Matthews, I think, eloquently pointed out that, you know, when the process was the process, and historically, really in the history of the city, there has never been a situation where we went through our procurement process, which is defined by state law as well as our own ordinance code, and the required selection committee made a decision, and the mayor was not allowed to enter into the contract. So I think that that was an excellent point, and an excellent point that as far as negotiating, as Section 6 of the RFP outlines, the negotiations would necessarily need to be with the winning proposer, and that's what CARDS was. So that meeting that we held, as well as the meeting that we had today on Zoom, which Council Member Lockett participated in, was an effort to ensure that the members who have expressed deep concerns, that those concerns were addressed, that the information that was needed was clarified. And so that's what I want to do at this point, is to clarify some things, because I think that a lot of things have gotten crossways in all of the back and forth, and really in the expansion of this process, because I think what people need to understand is that with the way these RFP, RFQs go, you have departments all over the city who typically start out with that process. There's no process typically that starts with the council. In a department, you go through a process to do a competitive bid so that you can find someone according to those standards to perform the work. And then you take that proposed contract to the council to say, hey, this is the information we got, this is how much we want to pay, this is the work that needs to be done, here is the company that's going to do it, can we move forward? And what we've learned, and this is a learning curve for everybody, my chief of staff has been saying that this is a huge learning curve, because this has been a contract that has never been competitively bid before. So for 35 years, it has just continued to be renewed, which I think might be what someone said. Someone might say, well, because, we didn't have any problems. Well, more recently we did have some. And this is also not a process to punish those problems. If we know that we need a better contract, that's what this is about. That's why we entered into the RFP process, to compete, to afford companies to compete for the business of the city based upon our terms for the best contract. Because what people need to understand is if we renew the existing contract, by law, you cannot change that contract. City Attorney, am I correct with that?
That's correct.
So if you want a different contract that includes parameters that help protect residents, that help protect the customers of the company, you have to have a different contract. So that's where we started. And I just want to make that clear, that it's not about going back and forth with who made the most mistakes. I think all three are good companies. All three are strong companies. That was part of our process to make sure that that's the case. The key is who is going to answer to the parameters and the requirements and specifications that were outlined in the RFP the best. And then once you do that, who's going to have the best price? And that is why 7 out of 8 of the people who served on that selection committee, who are professionals within the cities and stakeholders within the city, including our city attorney, said that 7 out of 8 said CARDS should rank number 1. Now, I think that we've gone back and forth a lot, and I don't want to beat a dead horse with the things we've already talked about. What I want to do is share information that has been clarified. So we did have the meeting the other day where we addressed equipment and contract provisions. That is and so when we've talked before about the winning proposer having no exceptions, that means that when the city of Pine Bluff said in this RFP, we want you to give us a price based upon new containers, right? Trucks no older than 4 years old, daily reports of complaints, 24-hour window to address those complaints, and gosh, I could go on. I don't want to do the laundry list here, but there was a laundry list. And the winning proposer said, we don't have any exceptions. We don't have any problems with the things that you say are important to you to move forward with this contract. So the equipment is one of those issues. Landfill contract and contingency planning. One of the things that the winning proposer incorporated in their RFP was that they had to, actually all of them had to show that they had a contract to use our local landfill. But the winning proposer also had alternatives. They own a landfill in the state. And then they also were willing to expand the hauling station to allow for transfer of waste. So that would ensure that they had the capacity necessary to address all of our waste needs with the local landfill and other landfills. Customer service and fines. We know that that is an issue just in this industry. And the winning proposer not only met our standards, but also committed to open a call center right here in Pine Bluff. So in addition to the hauling station, there would be a call center right here. So calls would never roll over to someplace else. Calls would be taken right here. And that was something that was seen as very favorable. And the fines is probably one of the most important things that I didn't include on the laundry list. It is absolutely reasonable, really necessary to assume that there will be problems, there will be issues, something will get missed, someone may call in sick, inclement weather, what have you. But when the mistakes occur and it affects a resident customer, we need to make sure that our constituents, that the customers and residents have some recourse. Under the current contract, there's no recourse. And we were excited to be able to provide that provision and that protection for our constituents. Employee transition. That is something that in the interview process, we discussed average pay, we discussed transition and what that would look like. And I'll tell you that we hadn't talked a lot about it publicly because there are certain, I think, parameters, and I don't know if they're even rise to the level of legalities where one company can't come in and poach another company's, they use that term, employees. But what we saw, and in the questions we asked, is that when there is a transition, typically the employees transition over to the new company. They need those employees. Those are the ones that know the routes. Those are the ones that know the people. Those are the ones that know the community. And in our meeting on Tuesday, what we were able to further clarify and establish is that the employees here in Pine Bluff who are at Waste Management would be given the first opportunity to apply for those positions. And what was also made clear, just in terms of what that opportunity means and how that has operated with waste companies across the country, is that when that happens, that bodes well for employees. As far as billing, and I'll point out the billing issue in response to Councilwoman Frazier's concern. That was listed as an exception. And I can say that we have had numerous conversations, and our current company was very well aware that we had no desire to change the billing. And so when we saw that as an exception, even as an option, that was not seen as a positive by the committee. Acquisitions and ownership changes. In that meeting, the winning proposer made it very clear that there have been no announcements, no plans for any future acquisition or sale of the company. And if that ever happens in the future, one of the things that they made very clear is that if any company encounters a situation where there is a desire for a sale or an acquisition, it would require explicit consent. So they wouldn't have to just let us know. They could never sell without the consent of the municipality that they are contracting with, which would include Pine Bluff. So to me, that makes that a non-issue, because if we don't approve the sale doesn't happen. That's with any company that we're with, our current company or, the winning proposer. And the bulk and brush pickup was also something that was on our list of things that we felt was important, because that goes back to customer service. We know that there have been numerous complaints, whether they've come into the mayor's office or they were complaints that we've heard in a public forum or online. Having the bulk and brush picked up weekly without residents having to call makes it consistent, it makes it clean, and it ensures that the work gets done without anyone having to get on the phone and make a phone call. It just made sense to us. And again, the winning proposer had no exception to it. That's something they were willing to do without discussion. Other items we discussed about recycling and future services, marketing and communication. And I want to make it clear that as a part of the transition, we also discussed and have committed to ensuring that there would be town hall meetings to provide information to the public about what the timeline would look like. And I'll go further to say, I know that Council Member Fells had talked about contingency, and so that issue was addressed, I think, more stringently than maybe it otherwise would be, to offer assurance not only to the members of this body but also to the public. And I'll say again that we through this 5-month process did our homework, and once the proposer, the winning proposer was announced, we not only read the proposals and everything, but I have had occasion to speak with the mayor of Springdale, for example, who for the last 2 years has had their contract with our winning proposer. And The other thing that I think is important to know, and I learned that in the meeting the other day, is that part of that, and I ask that council members, one of the handouts that you received was a municipal list. So you can see which cities in Arkansas that they currently serve. And so we're looking at the first 2 pages, 24 cities in Arkansas, including Springdale, but also Russellville. So when Russellville last year became one of the cities that they served, they actually transitioned that city in 19 days. So I think that when you heard Mr. Fitzgerald say that basically their transition plan is their contingency, that they work with their vendors to make sure that that transition happens because there's no room for error. I think that's what he meant. And what I also know, since our last meeting, Mr. Fitzgerald has traveled and met with their vendors to ensure and get assurance that they will be ready November 1st. And I think that one of the handouts that you should have received was a letter from one of those many vendors. The other thing that you have in your packet is a briefing to address the Attorney General issue and to clarify that that was not the result of complaints due to a municipal contract. That was during the course of an acquisition. And the bottom line is, and this is something that we were told in that process, that they met with the AG's office, opened their books, and went complaint by complaint to make sure that, number one, the complainant was an actual prospective customer, or that that issue would be resolved. Of course, you had the municipal list. Then you have in your packets the letter, and we sent this to you earlier, from Mr. Fitzgerald regarding the transition plan. The letter from Waste Quip, which is one of their vendors. I'm going to close with just some points that I shared with a supporter and someone who would like to see this change. And these are the things that I shared with him. Cards was the winning proposer, ranking number 1 by 7 out of 8 members of the selection committee. Cards submitted the most competitive proposal at the lowest price with no exceptions to the city's contract requirements. Cards is an Arkansas company that is successfully providing waste services in 5 states. The company serves 24 Arkansas municipalities, including Springdale and Russellville, as well as 6 institutions, including the University of Arkansas Fayetteville. Cards is the only company who submitted a proposal that includes a commitment to establish a call center and hauling station in Pine Bluff and maybe a transfer station on that site as well. All of those things are really important to consider when we're talking about the contract, because that's what we're talking about. And I'll just remind the public, I'll remind the council that the thing that distinguishes this process than any other RFP is that there was an initial vote taken by this body to approve the consultant that we utilized to help us with the procurement process in this, which took 5 months and a professional committee. We did our due diligence, and we are simply operating in the best interests of this city to protect our people with the best contract. And you heard from our city attorney last meeting that we expose ourselves not only legally, and that's not even the most important thing. We expose ourselves to being a city that doesn't make good on its procurement processes. For those vendors who want to do business with us, who send their people here to propose and spend their time, spend their money because they value Pine Bluff enough to want to do business with us, that when we say, this is our decision, this is our choice, this is our process, that our word is our bond, unless we have a reason to believe that the company cannot fulfill the terms of the contract. And I think that with the information that we've discussed in the past, but certainly information that has been shared with you today and over the course of the last few days since our last meeting, I think that we are at a place where the expectation, the reasonable, fair, legal expectation should be for us to move forward with the winning proposer, which is Cards, and protect our folks with the best contract possible. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or entertain any further discussion.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, hey. Councilmember Fells.
Good evening, everyone. I did have a question for the city attorney, but first I did just want to make a response. I don't want the residents to feel like if the council comes to a different decision than the recommendation that was brought to us, that somehow that's going to reflect poorly on the city and make potential vendors believe that we don't conduct our business in a professional manner. Because I do believe that, like you just said, the council, we did support an RFP process because we wanted to see what other options were, what other companies would present a proposal. We received those proposals and we reviewed those proposals. And I do think that the concerns that we've had and that we've heard from our citizens are legitimate concerns in terms of the issues and the challenges that Cards has experienced in other communities. And I think that we keep mentioning the word process, but our process was, the first recommendation was brought to the council, and in a vote of 5-2, we chose to reject that first proposal. And normally in the process, you would move on to the second proposal, but we've gone back to the first proposal. And so I just want to make it clear that just because we have disagreements based on legitimate concerns that we've had, that does not mean that we're necessarily conducting our business in an unprofessional manner in a way that will reflect poorly on the city. And my question is related to the current contract that we have with Waste Management, because I heard that we won't be able to negotiate if we were to extend this contract. I do see on page 28 of the current Waste Management contract, and I'll just read the section out loud. It says that the grantor may request a change in the level of service and pickup rate schedule as deemed necessary by the City Council. The parties may negotiate these levels and type services at rates reasonable and appropriate to the service provided. In the event a level of service different from the current level set forth in this agreement is selected, grantee shall diligently work to put that service into effect and shall be allowed a commercially reasonable time to comply. The parties may, by mutual agreement in writing, modify this agreement to appropriately provide for the detailed methods, equipment, waste placement contemplated by the services level selected. And so when I read that, a comment like that in our contract, to me, that suggests that at any time we can go to Waste Management and renegotiate our level of service and our pricing. And so I did just want that clarification on what your thought on that section is, Attorney Scott.
My thoughts are that it should have been done, in my view, before we solicited proposals. As a matter of fact, that's what we did the previous time when right before Waste Management contract was set to expire. That's what we did. We sat down with Waste Management and hammered out some of our concerns and issues and disagreements, and that's what we did. This basically, to me, once you enter into a procurement process and there's some level of expectation by those people who submit those proposals, and those proposals are meet the requirements that have been set by the city, I think it potentially can open up litigation against the city because they relied on the fact that that we were seeking new sanitation services and they were able to provide, and they met the qualifications.
So, and I just want to make clear, I'm not making any, I think they put together a very professional proposal. I don't believe they didn't comply with any of the provisions of the RFP. Now, I have two questions. So, do cities have the right, if they do receive multiple proposals as part of an RFP process, to say, we reviewed these proposals, we're going to choose to reject all of these proposals? I did believe that was within the city's, authority to do, and it's something that's been exercised by other municipalities. And then my second question would be, if we were to get into a situation where we extended our contract with Waste Management, meaning it goes into effect, does that mean, based on the language in this section, that at any time after that extension, we'll be able to sit down with the Waste Management team and negotiate any of the terms in the contract?
The language is in the contract. The only thing I will say, and I can't guarantee, it would be left up to a court to make that determination as to whether the reliance by cards would be, whether there was detrimental reliance on their behalf. So the court is going to have to make that decision. Can you go back and can we extend the contract and can we negotiate? Arguably, yes. The closer in time the closer in time, like if we did in the next 6 months or the next year or 2 years, the further out it is, the less it would look like we're trying to get around the procurement process.
Okay, so what I'm...
Because right now it looks like we've entered into a procurement process, but we don't like the results, and now we're trying to circumvent that process.
Okay, so what I am hearing is that arguably, if it is extended at any time, we can enter into negotiation based on the language in this contract. Now, another thing is that I keep hearing that, because here's the thing, the city, we receive proposals, but there are situations where we will receive proposals from individuals, and they may follow all the rules and whatnot, but at the end of the day, someone is reviewing those proposals, and they should have a right to say, we choose not to accept proposal 1, 2, 3, or we choose not to accept proposal, any of these proposals. And so my question is, what would be a legitimate reason that we can choose to say that we're uncomfortable with this company, we want to reject this company? Because I do think that if we are reviewing complaints from other municipalities who are engaged with this company already, and they are they filed complaints saying, we're not receiving the level of service that we were promised, the level of service that we expect, why is that not a legitimate reason for the city to say we're going to choose not to go with this company?
My response to that is that it was already, that information was already provided. So that wasn't a surprise to the best of my understanding that the concerns that are being expressed were expressed to the committee. So it wasn't something that the committee didn't know anything about in their evaluation.
Okay, so I understand that it was expressed to the committee, but at the end of the day, I'll just speak for myself. I didn't know that cards had been selected until it was in the packet. I'm not saying that you delayed it or anything. That was the appropriate time to put it in that packet.
Right.
But I'm just saying I did not know that cards had been selected until they were in the packet. And of course, naturally, none of the citizens would have known that as well. Once they were in the packet and people started learning about it, that's when we received that additional information. So the council as a body, we
didn't know.
never heard of those concerns. Our community never heard of those concerns. And that's why at this point, I'll just speak for myself again, I am hearing from a lot of citizens who are saying waste management isn't perfect, but they've made improvements, so we want to just keep the company that we have now.
If I could say this, I think that you're right that you didn't see it, wouldn't see it, because it was presented at the time when you receive the information. I know it's been just 9 months, but it's been 9 months of seeing where the council votes on a contract when it gets to you, that the process typically is a process that plays out on the executive level or within departments and then comes to you in your packet. And what I would say to that about, the complaints that you see online, that is something that we saw and vetted in the process. And as a matter of fact, saw that across the board with all of the companies, including our current company. And so I think that whether you're looking at that internally through our process or looking at that from the perspective of a council member, I think you have to, if you're going to weigh that, I think you have to look across the board. And, I think that you're hearing from constituents because that is something that drew your attention, and that is something that has been shared in every one of these meetings, that there are concerns about the winning proposer, but nobody is looking at or discussing the complaints about the current company or even the other company that was considered. So if you're trying to ascertain, whether or not this is a solid decision on the part of the selection committee, and you're looking at that, I just would say it would be appropriate and fair and really a part of good decision making to look at that issue across the board. And those issues existed across the board. We looked at that.
Well, I will say, I've said it repeatedly, that's why I just said my constituents have acknowledged waste management is not perfect. I do remember at one point, I believe it was last year, there was major issues with the driver shortage that the company experienced. So and any company that's in existence, they're going to have complaints. So
Absolutely.
I don't think that complaints necessarily should disqualify a company. But for me, it's just the volume of complaints that the company received, and what we're hearing what I'm hearing from my constituents is that even though there were complaints with Waste Management at one time, Waste Management made steps to come in and to rectify those concerns, and that there have been improvements in their services. So,
And I have acknowledged that, and I think that those were very seriously considered facts in the vetting process and in the procurement process. But I'll just remind you, and I know that you weren't on the council, but you were in the mayor's office, and I do recall attending the meeting where, the mayor at that time, along with every member on this body, had concerns about the contract, had concerns and called them a monopoly, had concerns and talked about, that there needed to be fines. You had a business or a commercial customer who hadn't had service for 8 weeks. And that was just this person who came before this body. We all know that when one person comes with issues like that, there's a whole slew of other people who have the issue and don't come. And you were in the office at the time and got the phone calls. I have spreadsheets right now, just from this year, of people who we had to respond to. And again, to your point, it's not about punishing the company. It is about the contract. And what I would say to your point about what is in the current contract, it may be that our current company is perfectly willing to make changes and concessions. But with the state law and our own ordinance, it is very clear that when the terms are set by which we have to operate to say, hey, you have to put this out for bid, one of the exceptions is if you renew or extend a current contract. But it's very explicit in stating that you can't, it has to be the same contract. So nuances here and there to address issues and glitches is one thing, but the law is very clear that if you change the contract, you have to put it out for bid.
I'll just say one thing, because I know we have some other members who want to speak. I was in the mayor's office, and that's exactly what I'm saying. We received complaints, Waste Management, they came in and they rectified that. And I do understand that one of the things that the council has wanted to possibly see in the Waste Management contract would be more clauses on the liquidated damages. And I believe Mr. Vernon has indicated that he'd be willing to negotiate with the city on that piece. He also indicated that he'd be willing to negotiate with the city on the pricing in order to reduce the current rate. And I'll just go back to what was said about in terms of the cities, whenever we receive proposals, we're not required. There's no requirement for the city council to authorize the executive to sign a contract with the winning proposal. The city council always retains the option to reject the proposals that it receives. And you also mentioned that was my train of thought, where my train of thought was going. If we do extend the current contract, there's already language in that current contract right now that says at any point in existence of us working with Waste Management, we can sit down at the table to negotiate the level of service in the contract as well as the pricing. So if we could extend our current contract, the same contract, and not change any of the language, and we would still have a provision and an avenue to negotiate with Waste Management at any time. So I'll just conclude my remarks for right now at that point.
Just a second. To that, I would just say that coming back and negotiating, I mean, we're saying in an open forum that we are negotiating with someone who wasn't the winning proposer before a decision has been made about the number one and number two ranked proposers. And the process was clear. So when the comment was made by me in our meeting about what that process was and how our existing company did not complete the options that we requested and came back with 5 pages of exceptions, that proposal was not complete. There was nothing in the RFP that said if you don't complete all of the options and provide pricing for what we asked for, that you will be disqualified, which is why they weren't disqualified. But if you are on, just anybody who's done grants review, you may have some things that you want to know about. If that organization says not applicable, not applicable, not applicable, but you get another applicant that gives you a full narrative of what you want to know about so that you can make your best decision, that's why they ranked number 3 and not number 1. So if that's what they submitted. They have our business. We said what we wanted on the front end and opened it up for competition. So we said we want to open this up for competition. Other companies came and competed and said, we will do what you ask. Here's everything you're asking for to prove that we can do that work. And then now we have concerns about things that are issues across the board, but nobody's paying attention to the fact that the winning proposer, selected by our selection committee, has agreed to do everything we asked for a contract that will benefit our people that doesn't exist in the existing contract and that our existing company did not adhere to. They did not say, you know what, those things are reasonable, we'll do it, no exceptions. The winning proposer did. So it's not about, creating a score sheet for who had the most issues in 2024. It's about who recognizes that in Pine Bluff, we may have issues, and so we will negotiate with them on the front end and say we value them enough to be willing to do the things that they think need to be done in this contract to make them feel comfortable and assured that if anything does happen, we stand ready to address those issues. So if we're saying, hey, if there are some issues and complaints, that you share them with us quickly and you address them quickly. That's all we said. If our current company says, hey, 24 hours is too quick, we need 15 business days on the front end. Now, of course, on the back end, at the risk of losing the contract now, there's a willingness to say, hey, we're willing to hear what you have to say. I had those conversations after our first meeting, just in case we ended, and I shared that with everybody. I didn't sneak and do that. I felt like I needed to do it because we had a 6-2 vote. We outlined it, we had a meeting, and unless I missed something, I haven't gotten any feedback to say the things we discussed, we would be willing to do. Because see, with the way this goes, we either chuck the whole thing and keep the same contract, or we have to go through one, and what the law says is we can negotiate, which is what we're doing. Once negotiations have ended with one, then we have to go through 2. And then we go to 3. What kind of negotiating power do you think this city will have by the time we get to 3 if we start out with our current company saying, give us 15 business days to deal with issues? So by the time we get to 2, we either have to extend the existing contract or take what they give us. And that's what we've been doing for 35 years, is extending the contract and taking what we get. Councilwoman Frazier.
First, the 15 days is in reference to, I hope I'm saying this word right, major events, like catastrophic events. It's not just like, oh, they don't want to pick up your trash, give them 15 days to pick up your trash. It's in reference to if there's a flood, snow, or a disaster that happens and communication is limited, we have, we have to give them time to get in communication with us, right? So it could be 24 hours up to 15 days, depending on what. If the lines go down and they can't call us because the lines are down or whatever, they're going to have to wait. They're at the mercy of the communication line. So it's in reference to major events. That's what that 15 days, up to 15 days, 24 up to 15 days was about. But that wasn't even what I was going to talk about because I'm over the rest of the stuff. I just wanted to talk about, we received on September 2nd, the day of our city council meeting at 5:30. The city council received an email at 1:18 from your chief of staff stating that on April 14th, a request RFP judging panel completed a training session to ensure a fair and consistent evaluation process for the city solid waste vendors proposal. The city received 4 vendor proposals, and on August 11th, the judging panel submitted scoring results. And then after interviews on August 22nd, careful consideration was given and the judges chose cards. Now, my concern with that is this. If we are talking about transparency, if we're talking about doing things different than what it was done in other administrations, then we have to do things different across the board, right? So why, if it was done in August and you had your final choice in August 22nd, that would have gave us, if you would have sent, just like y'all sent us the emails with cards information and waste management and the scoring and all that stuff, you could have sent that to us so we could have reviewed it. We would have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days to review that information instead of getting it on the exact day that we was going to have the city council meeting. And that is, I'm just voicing that's a concern for me. I mean, that's neither here nor there about this process, but I do want to make it clear. I just want to give an example of how things are processed and then how we receive them. I know they'll probably say in the past, the city council get the stuff right then and there when they come to city council, but we keep saying we're trying to do things differently and have open communication and more transparency. And we know that that is one of the problems that we have here on the council, not just with the current mayor right now, with previous mayors, that we'll get stuff right here on this the same day, and we gotta hurry up and read it and process it and then vote on it the same day. That's just not conducive. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to clarify that, because I did go back, like I said, and look to see if I got it any earlier, any RFP or anything earlier than that time. I did not. I don't know about anybody else, but I did not.
I'll speak to that, and then Councilmember Mays. I'm not sure why you didn't get your email, and what I'll say is this: in terms of doing things differently, you have an opportunity to make change legally or in terms of our standard operating procedures. And just as every other contract that has come before this body, in your packet, the Wednesday before the Monday, or in special meetings, the timeline is tighter, but that was a standard, regular council meeting, and the packet of information that you get the Wednesday before, and that was no different. This procurement process was no different, and I understand that there was a desire to have more information, and that is why Councilmember Lockett made that point in the first meeting. And the information that was requested was sent, and we had another meeting. And then there was a whole weekend that went by, and we had another meeting. And I'm not sure how much, I mean, it's dense information, which is why it was a 5-month-long process. But what I would also say is that and I said this earlier, I think that this is a learning curve, because this contract has never been put out for competitive bid process for almost 40 years. And I don't think it was unreasonable to ask for more time. I don't think that citizen concerns were unreasonable at all. But I think that we have to look at good faith, look at the actions and the presentation and submission of what we did receive. And I would just say that my office, this administration, has been wide open to sharing whatever information. But to answer your point about the 10 days, the information, once we knew who won, myself and Chief of Staff were the only ones who knew. And the reason that we didn't put it out there in advance, anybody knows, when you tell two people, then everybody knows. And there is a clause in the RFP that prohibits lobbying. And what we didn't want to do was to subject members to the possibility of the proposers who did not win the bid to subject you to unfair lobbying and really put them in a position to be doing something that they had committed to and were really restricted from doing. That is why we did that. There was no effort to hide anything. We had even had a discussion about possibly having a town hall, possibly having a meeting. How do we have a meeting and not violate FOIA? If we did that, then we'd have to invite the press and put the information out prematurely, subjecting possibly you all to doing something that the proposers were restricted from doing. So that was the reason why. And again, I would just ask you to consider, just like you asked me to consider, that there were things that happened that would have happened for the first time, because this is the first time we're doing this, and it is a learning curve. But certainly, we followed the rules and we followed the terms of the RFP.
Thank you for
Councilmember,
explaining that for me.
Sure. Go ahead.
I just had one statement, just a statement. If there's some way that we can figure out, because the thing is that when we get information, we're supposed to process it and share it with our constituents so that way they will know what's going on. Not only so we can know, but so the constituents can know, because whatever we do sign or pass here is directly affecting every citizen in our city. And so I'm just asking, I don't know what the answer is to that, but I feel like, again, people call me and ask me about stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, I just see it in the packet. I haven't, besides reading what's in the packet, I don't know all the details, until I get to city council. And that's a problem for me, because I want to be able to answer anybody, whether I was a city council member or not. I would have wanted to answer someone's questions in regards to something. So I don't know, Mayor, maybe that's something that we can
I think we can work
into.
together on that, because that's determined by ordinance code. And I mean, that's something that I think the city council can determine in terms of timelines and, if there needs to be a change with regard to that. But I think that Councilmember Mays had a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. My question is, all right, we're just talking, okay? So tell me something. We talked about everything else. What's the bottom line dollar sign on this contract?
So the winning proposer had the lowest price for the response to the RFP as we presented
Per
it.
year, however you want to do it, per year.
Hold on just a second. Let me send a text, because I don't have that in front of me, and I'd be happy to get you that information and see if I can get that for you. So what you're asking for, yes, I'm talking to you. So just to be clear, you're asking for the value of the contract?
Per year.
Per year.
That's what we're discussing, millions of dollars. City Attorney?
I don't know what the value is.
Joe? You got an opinion on it?
Oh, I did get just going back to you, Councilwoman Frazier, there was a gag order in the RFP. That's why. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Was it a gag order just for everybody, including us?
correct.
Okay.
I have a question too when you get done.
Go ahead, because I'm going to go ahead and send a
Okay.
text for Councilmember Mays' question.
I just want to clarify, so if it is a new company that comes on, November 1st is the start date, right? That's in 5 weeks. So transition with billing and containers, because I'm just saying, like, I just want to make sure, like, because if Waste Management is like, okay, y'all don't want us to come and get these containers tomorrow. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that you would do that, but I'm just saying, if that happens, what does that mean? Because I'm thinking about a November 1 turnaround, and I'm like, it's October 1,
Yeah.
kinda, sorta, so.
So we talked about that, and I actually had a conversation right before we came up, and I think I mentioned earlier that Cards has really doubled down to meet with all of their suppliers and vendors to make sure that they would be ready to go immediately and would be able to meet the November 1 deadline, and they would. And one of the things that I found out in the meeting, like, I was clear just based on the information that was provided in the proposal, what other cities they serve. But what I didn't know until I think yesterday is that when they transitioned to take over the Russellville market, that they made that transition in 19 days.
Okay.
So I feel very comfortable that they would be able to meet that mark.
And the transition from billing, will we just be having delayed billing, or will it be, I mean, I'm thinking with Liberty.
I mean, since we are utilizing Liberty, I think that transition would also be seamless as well, because they're basically sending their billing over to Liberty the same way that the current company does.
Okay. And then the trucks to get here, how they get here, I'm assuming.
New trucks.
New trucks.
New trucks will get here.
New trucks, new containers.
I'm looking at November 1. I'm just like, I don't want to have to put my trash on the side of the road. So.
That's not happening. Councilmember Lockett.
Madam Mayor, I did have a meeting with you and the Cards representative today at lunch. Now, my greatest reservation was the ability of Cards to perform and have the capacity to serve our city based on the information that I had received online from the Missouri investigation from the AG's office. And I do appreciate, I wish that the entire council would have the opportunity to hear what they assessed from the Missouri experience. It wasn't a good experience, but I talked with the lady from the AG's office, and she gave me reassurances that they did every effort to catch up when they were behind. Not to say that they didn't make mistakes and people were not served, but they did say that they did over time catch up. So it gave me reassurance that they were the type of people that would own up to a bad experience and go to work to solve it. Not to say that the workers and employees of Waste Management wouldn't do the same, but that was my greatest reservation from accepting the recommendation from the committee. So that gives me my general understanding of what really happened. And I don't know, to our consultants, I would say that in the future, this process would be a lot smoother if the three nominating entities would present to the public what their customer service mission is, so people can really see them. This is a really big endeavor
to have to rely on other people to say that we made a recommendation without having any input from any other people that potentially would be the recipients of the award. In the best case scenario, the winning vendor would get it, but there is scenarios where it may fall to number 2 or number 3. So it would be, without divulging anything secret, it would be a good idea in the future that one would have a chance to see the people that would get their business. But that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
And then I just want to say, they do have a recycling component to that. Am I correct? Cards, yes. I mean, Mayor.
So they don't necessarily have a recycling component. They have a very strong recycling capacity.
Okay.
But what we asked of all of the proposers is to give us 4 options, to let us know, for example, if we decided to go with just residential and commercial, or residential, commercial, and roll-offs. Those are the big containers when people are moving and the industrial projects are taking place. They use those, they're called temporary roll-offs. And then we asked for a price for residential, commercial, and recycling, because we wanted to see what the cost differential would be, and if that's something that we could provide in Pine Bluff. It was across the board a little more expensive than we felt comfortable trying to advance at this time. But one of the things that our winning proposer was willing to do was to work with us to at least provide a public recycling, I don't know what to call them, bins, containers, for those who wish to recycle now. And I know we used to have that partnership with the county. So that is a way for us to kind of enter back into that arena and provide those opportunities. And maybe at a later date, it might be cost effective for us to provide recycling. And then we asked for option D for everything. All of the proposers gave us prices for every option, except our current company basically gave us a no bid for 2 of those, and then only bid in 2 of those areas. So we weren't really able to make a fair comparison across the board with the other companies. And so when I talk about an incomplete proposal, it was incomplete in terms of what we asked for. They just elected to not bid.
And I just want to add in closing that this should be a notice and for everyone who has contracts or wants to do business, that we are a priority here in Pine Bluff, and we take our citizens and the people who live here serious. And at the end of the day, it is never about the time, it's always about the service. And you should give your best at all times, not when it's a certain time. And whatever contract we decide on, just know it is a renewal time. So just because you have it or will get it or whatever the case, just know it's not yours forever.
Any further discussion? Well, I'll just close by thanking everyone and for your patience. I have set out to, as mayor, do my due diligence and make sure that the people of Pine Bluff get excellence in service, get accountability for the best price with regard to this, and we will do our best to do that with all of our contracts. We engaged in a process with the blessing of the City Council starting back in May. It was a 5-month process, and we have sought to present the winning proposer simply because they were the strongest company right now and have demonstrated excellence in service in the state of Arkansas with 24 other municipalities, along with 6 other institutions, including the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville. They have demonstrated a strong, not just willingness, but desire to invest in Pine Bluff by creating more jobs, by giving the current employees who wish to come and work for them the first right, the first opportunity for those positions that would open up with their company, while they build a hauling facility and a call center to serve our constituent residents. That, along with all of the other aspects of the contract that we set forth in the RFP, is why we believe that it was critical on the heels of not only the calls we've received since January, including, I got a text from my director at the Parks and Rec who said it took 4 months to get a container changed out at Townsend Park. And we're the city. And I'm not saying that this is a punishment for that. What I'm saying is we don't have any recourse. All we can do is keep calling. All we can do is just keep calling. And there are no consequences or repercussions. We just got to pay and keep calling. And we just believe that the people of Pine Bluff and this city deserve much higher priority and treatment than that. You know, all of us have been in relationships before where we feel like we've taken for granted a little bit. And, you know, if you feel like you're taken for granted and you have an opportunity to do better, if you want to get better, you do better. And that's what this was all about. So with that, I will call the question.
I call for the vote.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Mays.
No.
Councilmember Holcomb.
No.
Councilmember Brown.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Frazier.
No.
Councilmember Brunson.
Aye.
Councilmember Denton.
Aye.
Councilmember Fails.
No.
It's a 4-4.
Aye.
No, they vote. To pass that?
5-4, the motion prevails. Thank you. I will entertain a motion to
Motion to adjourn.
adjourn. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. We're adjourned. Thank you.
As a bracelet, the bracelet. You want that? Yeah. Okay, that'll go with your purse. Mm-hmm. You can pass it. Thank you. I'm telling you, I'm ready to turn the page.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I got some girls, but yeah, the photos on my side. Yeah, I got the Prelude. Yeah. And so you can always mention
They will.
Brad, you getting your pen? I'm kidnapped.
All right.